Walk into almost any museum in the world, and sooner or later you'll find yourself standing in front of a brightly colored African textile.
Most visitors admire the colors. They take a photograph, read the label, then move on.
But every so often, a very different kind of visitor arrives. They don't photograph the cloth. They study it. Some even sketch parts of the pattern into notebooks. They aren't artists. They are mathematicians.
Why would a mathematician spend an hour studying a piece of woven fabric?
To answer that question, we have to leave the museum behind and travel back hundreds of years.
Not to a university, not to a laboratory, but to a wooden loom. In a village in what is now Ghana, a master weaver begins another day's work. Beside the loom sits a young apprentice. The lesson starts without a single word. No lecture, no diagrams, no formulas.
The master simply weaves. Over, under, pull, repeat.
The apprentice watches carefully, then tries. Within moments, something feels wrong. The pattern drifts. One thread crosses where it shouldn't. The apprentice looks up, expecting an explanation. The master says only 2 words, count again. So the apprentice starts over, over, under, pull, count, repeat.
Eventually, the hands remember what the mind once struggled to understand. The weaving becomes effortless. But something else has happened. Without writing a single equation, the apprentice has learned to follow a remarkably precise system.
No one calls it mathematics. They simply call it weaving.
Now look again at the finished textile. At first, you notice the colors.
Stay a little longer. You begin to notice repetition. Stay longer still.
Nothing repeats by accident. Every shape appears exactly where it should. Every line depends on the one before it. The cloth isn't simply decorated, it has been constructed. That question puzzled researchers as well. They weren't looking for hidden messages. They were looking for structure. At first, they noticed mirrored forms, then repeated movements, then carefully balanced arrangements. Researchers compared hundreds of African textiles. They kept noticing the same thing. These weren't simply beautiful designs. They followed consistent rules. Some patterns mirrored themselves across invisible lines. Others repeated the same shapes with remarkable precision. Some motifs turned around a center. Others balanced perfectly across the cloth. Mathematicians call this symmetry. But the weavers never needed those mathematical words.
They learned these ideas through practice, thread by thread. The mathematician described the pattern. The weaver created it.
Different paths, the same hidden order. Then researchers looked beyond a single village.
What they found was even more surprising. These textiles weren't copies of one another. Each belonged to its own tradition.
Each had its own history, its own techniques, its own cultural meaning. Yet every master faced the same challenge. How do you keep a pattern consistent? By following the same simple rules every single time. When the rules stayed consistent, the patterns stayed consistent. Centuries later, computers learned to recognize these same patterns. But the computer didn't invent the rules, it only recognized them. The real invention happened here, at the loom. The cloth preserved more than beautiful designs. It preserved a way of thinking.
Not because it contained written mathematics, but because it embodied mathematical thinking. And this story isn't over. Many of these weaving traditions are still alive today. Back at the museum, the same textile looks completely different. You're not just looking at patterns, you're looking at centuries of human thought.
It was never just fabric. It was a way of preserving knowledge, one thread at a time.